I don't remember moving any other place except probably to Watson Street, because I was 6 when we moved to Watson.
I remember living in Watson. I remember when Daddy was in the service, we lived on Watson. I remember that clearly. I remember when Rosemary was in the hospital and she had double pneumonia and they had to take 2.5 ribs out. D. I'm sorry. Correction, D. And they had the Red Cross flew Daddy back into Key West because she had that red blood and he's the only one that could give her blood. And they took us in there and told us to kiss her because she was going home to Jesus. And I'll never forget that. You go out of the Navy Hospital, like on the boulevard, you go this way, well, you can go this way. There used to be a wooden bridge there. And me being rebellious, I wanted to run across it, and he kept telling me no. And about the time he grabbed my hand to pull me back, the board gave way, and my leg went down, and he pulled me back up like that. It's no wonder I'm not scared of water.
That bridge is not there anymore.
No, it's paved over.
Kind of sad because it was interesting. It was little slats, and you could look down and see the fish.
And you drive over, and it went clink, 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 clink.
It was fun to drive over because you go clickety, clickety, clickety.
Yeah, there you go. You can do it better than I do.
But we did a lot of things that, kids nowadays would just absolutely probably think was just absolutely boring to.
Well, you've seen that alley. At the end of that alley, towards in between the house, Olives, we played softball in that place.
Well, when you're not allowed to leave the yard, you have to use what you can use. But do you remember that cistern in the backyard?
Mm-hmm. It's still there.
What street?
The water on
Watson. Okay.
Can I kind of divert from?
Sure. Go ahead.
We went down there when Hal and I got married. We got married in January. We went down there, and we walked down there because I wanted to show him the house, and we were staying off White Street. And we walked down there, and I said, "Oh, the door's ajar." He says, "You're gonna get us killed." I said, "No, you won't. Nobody in Key West will kill you for knocking on the door." So I knocked on the door, and this man came, and he was on crutches. He had one half, and I said, "I'm sorry to bother you." I said, "But we were raised in this house up until we were teenagers and got married." And he said, "Oh my God, come in and look what I've done to the house. Tell me what." So he's got it really pretty inside. But then he says, "I heard that there was a pump in the backyard," and he said. And he said, I said, yeah, he said, and there was an outhouse, but I don't know where it was at. Can you come tell me? So we walked out the back door, and it's only one door there now. Oh. Just the one for the hall. The other has been closed in. And it's like a great big living room back there. But anyway, I walked out there, and Hal was walking behind us, and I said, "Okay, you just got to wait a minute. I got to get myself oriented." So I went to the end of the house by Miss Louisa's, and I stood there, and I said, "Okay, the pump was right there. Cistern's right there, and the outhouse was right there, and our neighbor's outhouse was backed up to ours."
It was ours.
And he said, "Oh my God, wait a minute! I don't even know if I want to know where that pump was." He says, "You mean to tell me there was a pump that you pumped water that came out of that cistern, and the outhouse was right next to it?" And I said, "Yeah, I never thought of that before." Our cistern was here, and the people that lived behind us was right there together. So, and the outhouse was right here. Miss Louise's. I was scared death to go in there because I was scared of her husband. I can't remember what his name was, but I was scared death he was going to be in there peeking through.
I'm glad you mentioned that. If you went in there and played around, and I love to go in there and read funny books. And so
in the outhouse?
Yeah, the outhouse. And they did not want me to spend all the time in there. I don't know why I wasn't doing nothing, just sitting reading.
Because it was an outhouse.
Yeah, but the outhouse was like, it had great big gaps in the boards and that. And the house behind us, beside that cistern, end of that cistern, had this tree that had a lot of little leaves. They told me if I sat in there and stayed in there that there was ghosts and spirits. You could see the ghost. And I was sitting there, and I looked up from that funny book, and on the wall was, the shadow of those leaves going like that. And it looked like they were reaching up. I got out of the house so fast.
I refused to go in. I used the pot in the back room there. I wouldn't go in.
Do you have any ghost stories to tell? You had no ghostly weird things happening?
See, there you should have went in the outhouse. But I know she has stories to tell about that pump because she and I both got into big trouble about that pump.
We did?
Yeah. You don't remember, I guess it's my fault because I would tell her, "Come on, let's get some water and play in the water," because it was hot. Or we wanted to make mud pies, so I would go just as easy as I could, come up and just as easy as I could. And oh, so help me, I hadn't done it 5 times. Well, my grandma said, "Like, say that, you stop, you get out of the water." They acted like, we would get pneumonia if we got wet out there and playing, So I know, and I know she was right along because she was always there too, and then we were glad to get in that water.
Yeah, we were always together because Mommy always had Dee right with her. She wouldn't let her, and it was just like we were our own little world.
It was, I always had somebody that I could say, "Who did that?" She did. But anyway, we stayed in that house until we both left. But it had a lot of memories. That outhouse, my father put a mayonnaise jar, a big one, on the shelf above the thing, and it was July, and I mean it was roasting hot, and I was sitting there reading my funny book, and all of a sudden I hear this huge explosion, and I had a whole bottle of mayonnaise bottle full of DDT just totally covered me. You know what they did? They took me over to the pump, washed me off, went over to the corner druggist, Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Gardner.
He gave us, every time one of us got sick,
go to Mr. Gardner.
And get what?
Castor oil.
No, well, that too.
Yeah.
He would give you a glass tube of something called Carter's.
Oh, liver pills. Carter's liver. They still make them.
Carter's liver pills.
They still make them. They had something on Facebook about them.
They pure sugar pills. They were nothing but sugar pills. But you had to tell him what you were ailing, and then he would say, "Well, you need number 4. No. Are you having this? No. Well, then I think we ought to try something."
And this was it was a drugstore?
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of the drugstore?
Gardner's
Drugstore. Do you remember what
Mr.
street
Gardner.
it was on?
It was on White, wasn't it?
What?
Gardner's. Was it on White Street?
It was on White Street and
Varela.
The corner of Varela and White Street. I had a big argument on Facebook with someone that told me that White Inn Bar wasn't on that corner.
Oh my Lord! I got pictures of that White Inn Bar on that corner.
Well, good, because the White Inn Bar moved, okay?
Yeah.
But when we lived there, that White Inn Bar was on the corner, and they said, no, Jane, you probably don't remember it. I thought, yes, I do remember.
That's just like that guy that argued up and down me and told me, and then put on these old people think they know everything. There was never a white laundry on White Street, and there was never a house across the street over there next to it.
Oh, I wanted Hal to copy me that picture of you and Dee and Rosemary in the stroller, because right behind you is a great big truck that says White Laundry.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was wanting to maybe.
I'll get him to print one.
I have some pictures.
Okay.
In here of Jane Ann. Were you named after Jane Ann Hopkins?
I was thinking of Jane Ann Hopkins.
Find it. I'm trying to find this picture. But anyway, while I look for this picture, I was wondering if you could tell me. I want to hear more, like some stories about Grandma, my grandma, Clara, Belle, and about Clara, Dena, and just whatever you can remember about them.
Your grandma, Clara Belle, was the most humble person in the world. She let everybody walk over. Yeah.
My mother would never get angry at anyone.
Never.
When I was a teenager, I would rant and rave at her because we did have to go. Me and Joe had to go hide to get a very small amount of money because, man, we'd give my mother enough money for just credit.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let her get more than 6 eggs, and he wouldn't let her get but just 1 onion.
They kept a book. And they wrote it down. And then when Daddy gave her money, she'd go in there and pay.
Oh,
Well, it wasn't only us that he did it for. He did it for a lot of people.
You want to talk about Mama, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
well,
Mom.
I really don't know her. I don't remember ever meeting her.
She was a very beautiful woman.
She was very beautiful. And let me tell you, you know the people that lived behind us. This is one of the things that really shook me out one time is that we were going to Italy with Jean and Jimmy, and I called down there to get my birth certificates because I didn't have one, and she told me they had moved them to Jacksonville, and she says, "Who are you?" She says, "Your name sounds familiar." I said, "Well, we lived on Watson Street. My mother was Clara, Belle, and Jane." She's, "Oh my God, I was so jealous of you all." And I said, "Why would you be jealous of us?" I said, "We were dirt poor." And she says, "You had the most beautiful mother in Key West, and I was jealous."
She was a very humble person, and she had a very hard life. Okay, she had a dictator mother. I'm sorry,
Clara Dena.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She was the youngest, Mommy was, and she was a girl. And in those days, the youngest.
No, but Bubba was the last.
Yeah, well, the girl though.
Yeah.
The girl was not supposed to get married or nothing. She was supposed to stay home and take care of her parents.
And that really wasn't normal. But my grandmother, she was one of the greatest control freaks you've ever seen in your entire life, really. And she controlled all her children. And she kept them. My dad said, "But I just want you to know that there's no love between my dad and my grandmother." They had a mutual admiration, hate society.
I was scared to death of her.
Huh?
I was scared to death of her.
But she was a very demanding person, and my mother was a very, very kind of like, I really think she was, her best friend told me this, okay? She said, "Your grandmother kept your mother so, like, under, scared to do this." She said, "Your mother and I decided to go to the matinee on Saturday afternoon, and your grandmother didn't want her to go for some reason or the other." And she said, as we walked out the door, she threw a can of condensed milk and hit it in the back of the head, right in the back of the head. She was she could get very violent. My grandpa, poor old soul, he'd want to go out and have a cup of coffee with his friends. He was a very humble person too. We would be laying on the floor. You remember that? Mm-hmm. We would be laying on the floor because it was hot. So he would come, he'd go,
Mm-hmm.
and he had his shoes in his hands, and he would try to tiptoe between us, and she would come flying out that door and tackle him. And I mean, she had a rough life, and I guess, although, to tell you the truth, I can't even say that, because talking to people about my grandmother, especially, I went and spent the weekend with my great-grandmother's granddaughter. She was 92 years old. And she was around my great-grandmother a lot.
Grandma.
And she said to me, "Jane, I hate to tell you this, but she said, your grandmother was a staunch Baptist." And she said, "And your grandmother," well, she was a liberal when there was, and she said she absolutely drove my grandmother, which Jane Ann was her grandmother, she drove my grandmother crazy. She said she was wild, she did things. See, my great-grandmother wouldn't even allow you to cook in her house on Sunday. That she was Baptist. No, I'm talking about my grandmother. She was kind of what was known as wild. So I guess she was kind of a rebel, and yes, I guess that's a better word to use. She was very rebellious, and she was very self-willed. She was very stubborn. I adored her. She tried to rule everything. Tell us that we couldn't even walk around the house in front of each other in our slips.
Yeah.
Because that was not very morally straight, because she said, if you don't respect yourself, no one else will. So when we took a bath, we had to put a a blanket up over the door, well, where we took a bath in the tub. And she was, when we went out, it didn't matter whether it was 120 degrees, we had to wear an undershirt because that's the way a proper lady dressed. She had my Uncle Bubba, she just had him under her thumb. Her kids somehow, he just adored her, but my Uncle John and her didn't get along. I really think she was very bitter. She had a very bitter spirit about her, and she was mad at everybody and everything, and she accused everybody of everything, Now, she was blind, but my dad said she wasn't completely blind. My dad said she had cataracts, so she saw shadows, but she refused to get an operation. Clara gave her $300. She put it in blankets, put it at the house on White Street. When Aunt Mabel went to clean out that house, they found the $300 in the blanket, half eaten by the rats. I don't understand how she did it, but she had high blood pressure. And she had stroke after stroke after stroke. She wouldn't go to the doctor. She wouldn't go to the hospital. And she was treated. The doctor would come to the house sometimes if Aunt May was called him or insisted on it. But she would tell me, doctors will kill you. And she said, you see all them graves out there in that graveyard? She said, the doctors, every one of them, doctors put them in. She was very harsh in her. She was never sweet or kind or anything else. My mother's best friend said that when I was born, my mother was very sick. For one thing, she had scarlet fever while she was delivering me. And she was very weak for a while, so my grandma was taking care of me. She said, I came there to see the baby, and you were screaming. And I said to her, Miss Dena, there's something wrong with this baby. She said, there ain't a thing wrong with her, but she's just spoiled rotten. She said, I went over to pick you up, and she said your diaper was all full of blood because she had put the diaper pin through your flesh and skin. Oh. So, but I don't think...
Because she couldn't see.
I don't think she would have done that on purpose, really. I don't think she would honestly really hurt you, but she had a temper, and she would react very quickly to that temper.